heard in the Punch Bowl, and that's that loss to Duke, right? I mean, other than that, if I just watch it, I don't see it that way,
Mhm.
and so that's hard. It's are you watching it? Are you looking at the numbers only? And I know Drew and those guys have a tough job of figuring all that out. But we're talking about just those three. But man, I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I've had a conversation about Notre Dame, and of course now they're in a spot because they lost another game, right? But USC potentially. We're talking. We mentioned Michigan State earlier. Are they in that mix now of people? If Maryland beats Michigan State, is Morton now in that conversation? There's just a big jumble of teams that could be anywhere from 8 to 15, honestly. And
Mhm.
it will play itself out in some regard. It'll go from 7 teams being in the mix to maybe 3 or 4.
When I see your point too, I mean, there's some things here. I saw fired up Chip. He's up there saying Big 12 is overhated right now. I'll give you a little example how we can love them a little more. But the part about when do wins matter, when do losses matter, I promise you that was a huge point of contention amongst it. So right, like part of the problem was the games played, right? So we're having to do some future casting on teams. Well, what if they go and play their games, God willing, and then they end up here? We're not going to rank them now, but we have to just plan for these things. But at the same time, I mean, when you're talking, we're not talking a three-loss team here, right? Like that would be a crime if we were talking. It's hard to sometimes. I get it, right? The just win. You got to just win your games. But even I would still say when you look at Clemson's schedule right now, they beat Louisville, but that didn't count towards this ranking. So when we were doing the ranking, Clemson's best wins were SMU and Duke. And then not and again, Duke's here, but Utah's best wins were Texas Tech and Baylor. You guys just talked about Texas Tech getting hot. Baylor is no slouch in this league. So, I mean, at the end of the day, like maybe those wins, some people say, well, those wins are equal. Okay. So there, in that case, winning your games matters, right? We have Utah ahead of you because they've played their games and they've taken care of business. NC State, I mean, I get it, right? There's quite a few one loss teams behind them. I mean, it's one of those things too. Do we think Clemson, they lost 55-20 or something like that to Texas? Same type of
Yeah.
thing. I mean, are we calling that an outlier result? Is that an indemnification of Clemson and they're not really a top? It's hard to say that one result and one win or loss on the record at this juncture is going to be the deciding factor. I mean, that I'm not trying to downplay winning versus losing. Um, I'm just saying
Yeah.
I think we're still at a point where the schedule allows that leeway because some of these teams still have to play each other. That we let the metrics help guide us, and that's where we place them because of that. More so than the win loss column on some. Eh, Pittsburgh, right? I know we're going to talk about nobody's saying Pittsburgh's a great team, but I'm going to tell you that this is where we talk about some of those stats, like Tim had brought up at the beginning. Quad one wins, quad two wins. Well, when you go and look at the schedule, guess what? Pittsburgh's listed as a quad one team. Their only losses are to Ole Miss, Boston College, and Boston College is no joke, and Florida State, also no joke, right? So,
Mhm.
yeah, they don't have a great record, but that doesn't make them not a good team. And according to the stats, they're a quad one team. So yes, that's a loss, but it's one of these things where it's just a whole picture thing, and the wins and losses, right? That's what you live and die by. I understand where that comes to the forefront, but we're just trying to be all inclusive of all the information available to us. Just to try to highlight that again, how the process is playing out for us, and we look in can we justify a 6-2 team over a 7-1? What's our reasoning? Is that okay? And that's yeah. So yeah, I mean, I don't expect everybody to agree. I don't want everybody to agree, but I'd go to bat for NC State if I had to be honest with you, where they are
So
right
Okay.
I'm
now.
gonna I'm gonna go ahead. Go ahead, Jeremy.
No, no, go ahead because I know we need to get through these rankings, but I was just going to ask, real simple. I know you can't speak for the whole committee, Drew, but the conversation Penguin and I were just having about how many losses does there have to be different to for the head to head not to matter. Okay, when you look at that trio of NC State, Duke, Iowa State, you can't speak for the committee, but for you personally, if you want to answer this, or maybe you don't, how many losses would there have to be now? What would have to happen to Duke for you to put Iowa State ahead of Duke?
Yeah, let me hold on. I have Duke's sheet here. Let me just look because again, that's part of it, right? Where you rate a team initially matters because again, that whole conversation about what's left in front of them and what does one team do versus another. Um, it's hard, I mean, Duke's taking care of business other than that NC State game and that Clemson game. I mean, that's two losses. It, it's hard to look at Iowa State's schedule and pick out anything that tells us that yeah, okay, they're one loss less, but the their loss was to Duke, who's ahead of them. What win tells you that Iowa State is better than Duke? So the wins definitely matter. The head to head is going to generally come first. I mean, I guess you could start to use Notre Dame as an example, right? There are these Notre Dame just lost to Pitt, right? Well, they beat. So who's beating Notre Dame? Let's take somebody. Doesn't matter. If Notre Dame takes another loss, does that mean that whoever beat them before, are you now going to marginalize their record that much more? Because, well, that's it. Sometimes yes, and sometimes no. Again, because you can improperly rate a team too high off the bat,
Yeah.
or you can improperly rate a team too low. And so it's not just a course correction of those teams that you misrated, but making sure that when you are putting that data into your formula about rating the other teams, that okay, did we miscalculate that team as well because we miscalculated? And so there is it's a reactionary process all the way around. I'm
Yeah.
not. It's hard to explain because again, that's a 12-man thinking and a consensus more than anything. But you're spot on because that's definitely part of our issue here where we got into talking, okay, past results are this, what do the future results tell you about those past results as as a full season
For
picture. So
sure.
it's
Yeah. I
definitely not
agree.
easy, and I mean that Notre Dame losing to Pittsburgh, nobody really had that on their bingo card probably,
Mm-mm.
but here we are,
No.
and so now it's something that you just have to
Yeah, because
readjust
that's
to.
gonna
And
be a trickle effect. The Pittsburgh
well,
beating Notre Dame because Notre Dame had played a lot of teams in different conferences with a win, like beating Tennessee. Notre Dame beats Tennessee, loses to Miami, now loses to Pitt, and that Pitt and Miami loss are going to be huge because by the end of the season, I don't think either one of them are going to be ranked with Miami or Pitt. And so you're going to say Notre Dame's lost to two unranked teams to whereas all these other two lost teams are going to be losing to teams that are ranked or playoff bound. And so I'm gonna move on to the next team so we can get through these. Number 9, USC, Big Ten. And then I'm just gonna say the next couple here because we're gonna talk about them hand in hand with USC. Is that we have Notre Dame at 8, which now we know that'll change next week in the committee because they did lose today to Pitt. And then we have LSU at number 7, which we had thought they were higher, but LSU at number 7. So to round out, we have, I'll just go through them really again. Again, our graphics aren't working. We have Texas number 1, Alabama number 2, Ohio State number 3, Oregon number 4, Utah 5, Clemson 6, LSU 7, Notre Dame 8, USC 9, NC State 10, and then we have number 11 is Duke. Okay. So Duke is number 11 at the ACC. And obviously, Hubbard, just real quick, where do you think? Do you think USC slotted at 9 is where they should be right now?
No. Man, it kind of the same argument we just had with Drew. They beat Tennessee, right? Who we know is not in the top 12, but they're down there. And they beat NC State. That's a good win. But man, that Notre Dame, or excuse me, sorry, Notre Dame beat Tennessee, beat NC State, beat USC. I don't know, man. I think it's probably a little high for USC. I would have to. I mean, I don't know. It's close. It's so close in there with all those teams, and I think it's just. I think Penguin put it perfectly. It's where do you draw the line? Where do you say this is where I take a stand? And do you? I don't think you can look at it as a whole. You can't look at all four of those teams together. Maybe it's okay. Who do we think are the best two? Right, and then how do you compare those next two? And then how do you compare the next ones after that? Right, I don't even know how you get into that. Drew and them have a like I said, they have a tough test. I don't necessarily have a problem with it because I think it's going to play itself out, right? I
Yep.
think they'll either go up or down based on what happens. Today, it really doesn't matter, but I think that they've I don't know, man. That's a tough one for me. USC and that whole group is really tough.
So
So
here,
I got. Oh, go ahead, Tim. Go ahead.
well, so I look at their schedule. Obviously, they played face value for now. USC beat Miami, who at the time, right? We got a couple weeks ago, this Miami team was a top 10 team, right? In the rankings. And that's how everybody in the league viewed it. It wasn't just the playoff committee. We look at the coaches poll, they've ranked them very high, Miami. And so it's not like it's just this 12-person committee that was really high on Miami. But then we have Michigan State. We talk about Morton, Maryland, and Michigan State coming on strong here of late. He's got a win against Michigan State, who can only bolster that win, right? Michigan State kind of controls that destiny on being a borderline playoff team or not. And then to me, though, is I still thought there was some games that needed to be played for USC to be this high. And the reason I'll say that, Drew, is that one of their biggest games in that first block is Illinois. Hasn't been played yet, right? That's a week 5 game. And then obviously the week just opening is week 13 against Oregon. Okay. So Hubbard, you already hit on it. This is one of those ones that doesn't bother me as much because there's a lot of work still left. And so if he wins those games, then it's not going to be a question he deserves to be in. He may just take care of it, the talk himself, right? He controls his own destiny here. Because if he beats Illinois and beats Oregon, no one could argue that doesn't deserve to be in the playoff. I think if he beats Illinois and loses to Oregon, he's going to be one of those fringe teams where he's going to need Michigan State to win out. He's going to need Miami to win out. And so I'm with you, Hubbard, as I think this is one of those ones that is just going to work itself out. So this one doesn't bother me as much as any of the other ones were. Like Penguin, what about you? You're sitting there with one of those, borderline teams and stuff, obviously.
I think right now, presently, it makes a lot of sense for USC to be like well in front of me, for example. So I think they're in a logical spot given what's happened. What can really obviously they control their own destiny, but what Miami and Michigan State do the rest of the way can really boost how USC looks, or they can really damn how USC looks. Because if USC goes and loses a tough game to, Oregon, even if they beat Illinois, they got a chance to win to win 10 games still, but not make the conference championship game. But they can be greatly boosted depending on how, the Canes and Sparty does the rest of the way. But if those teams drop a couple more games, all of a sudden USC might even be looking at, if they could be looking at 10 wins and maybe be in contention for the last spot. Who knows?
So I'm gonna
it's really gonna depend how they play Oregon, really.
Yep. I'm gonna go backwards in real quick with these rankings, and then Drew, you can touch on everything. Okay. So
That sounds
backwards
good,
in,
Tim. Yep.
number 15th team. Okay, so this is the number 15th team. This would be the 4th team out because Missouri State's slotted into that 12 spot. So the 15th team is Michigan State in the Big Ten. Okay, sitting at 15. Then you have Tennessee at number 14. So the 3rd team out. Iowa State at number 13. So they're going to be the 2nd team out. Okay. And then 2nd team out. And then Louisville sitting at 12, they would be the 1st team out here. And the reason being is because Louisville has to slide out of that 12 spot so Missouri State can slide into it. And so that kind of gives you the top to bottom there. The only thing I'm going to say about any of this, and I'll let you talk, Drew, is when I look at this, we put a lot of weight on that SEC with them being the number 1 and 2 team. And then we have LSU sitting all the way down at 7 with 1 loss. And then there's no other SEC teams in here.
Hey, real quick, Tim, I want to say this because I got a bolt, obviously, but there's 2 things and I know Drew wants to talk about a lot, but there's 2 things I'd like to have brought up is number one, the Louisville part jumping the way they did. I won't be able to hear all this, Drew, but the Louisville thing's interesting to me. Also, with the question, we talked about some last week, and Pat dismissed it, but he's not here, so we can talk about it, is if Connecticut does beat NC State and they run the table, how seriously does Connecticut get consideration to move up there? I know they can't take the G5 champion spot, but at 12-0, how does Connecticut get taken? Drew, I appreciate the job you do. Tim, thank you guys. Penguin, have a good one. Mort, I'm looking forward to watching this later and hearing from you as well. And we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, Jeremy. Have a good one, bud. All right, let's go. We got a lot to unpack, don't we, fellas?
Mhm.
Well, I'll go ahead and talk about some USC. That'll probably be a hot button one. Fired up. Chip is blown away by it. One thing I would like to say, I mean, again, I'm not calling it validation. I just appreciate the correlation. I do find it interesting. If we talk about teams playing well as of late, playing hot, even in real life, they've taken that into consideration. Like it is interesting how over the years, sometimes, that whole bad loss, quality loss bullshit, like Penn State got their ass whooped by Michigan a few years back, and that one loss was enough to keep them out and put a Washington in. And then other times, I mean, there's plenty of examples. So you have to be careful with the playing well lately as your reasoning. And I would say that was something that was said. USC's playing hot. Uh, Michigan State's playing well as of late too. That was another team I think Tim had mentioned right from the outset. So that ties back into the whole thing we've been talking about with okay, teams that are playing well now helps to make a win that you have, which USC has a win over Michigan State. Michigan State's doing their part to make that look better for USC. Um, I know we talked about USC having games against Illinois and Oregon in front of them. I'll tie that into how I had brought up earlier. Yeah, it is very hard to rate these teams, but sometimes a team may get, I won't call it benefit of the doubt, but slotted a slot higher because they have these games left, right? And so that to me is a good one. I mean, we'll punish a team for not playing enough games, right? Illinois, sorry, got to play your games if you want to get ranked. Play them, win, we're going to rank you. Don't play them, it is what it is. So we won't punish USC for not having played Illinois yet because it looks like it's more on Illinois' end. Obviously, we would punish them. So we're looking at USC. Michigan State is their best win. Yeah, that one loss to Notre Dame, okay. But having those opportunities in front of them, that's one of those ones where we feel like they're either going to play their way in or they're going to go ahead and play their way out. And you could even bring up Iowa State as a good example as somebody, we're talking about all these fringe teams. Another result's been posted. We know Louisville's not going to be our 12th team anymore, probably, after they're taking a second loss here. I'm not saying that they won't be. Logically probably going to move out of there. Uh, what if USC goes out and loses again, doesn't make the Big Ten championship game? They've got 2 losses. Let's say Iowa State runs the table. I don't have Oklahoma State schedule in front of me, but there's another team that we talked about playing hot right now. So what if Oklahoma State goes out, takes care of business, except for Iowa State beats them, and then at the end of the year we say, okay, well, yeah, a 9-3 Oklahoma State, that looks like a pretty good win for Iowa State. I mean, these are things. I'm not saying that it will or won't, but maybe that's one of those things where that allows a late good season, a good late season good win allows a team to slot ahead of somebody who took just a generic loss, right? No, I don't think anybody's necessarily expecting USC to go out and stick it to Oregon. Could be a very tight game, 3-point game. Maybe that helps USC stay where they are. Maybe they lose by 14, and we think, yeah, they do drop. So there's a lot of those things where, yeah, I mean, everybody's right in in their line of thinking. You could probably justify USC where they are. You could probably justify them a little lower. I think the nice thing is that we slotted them somewhere that people could at least buy into for now, and that we allowed the opportunities for the teams around them to play their way in or hold serve where they are. So I hear what people are saying. Um, it always plays itself out, right? That's what people keep saying in the chat. Seasons past, we'll see what happens. But I did enjoy seeing at least at the media poll and the coaches poll too a little bit. But the media poll had them up at 11, so it seems like there's other people who are also buying into they're a hot team right now. Can they stay hot? You know what I mean? I think that's where you get into something like that. I know, so Louisville, let me go back just real quick here. Because I know that they had made a big jump, right? Last week we had them outside of our top 12 looking in. I want to say, again, I'm not going to make any crazy statements here because I don't have anything specifically, but they might have been one of those teams where we didn't think after the fact that, doing our post-mortem that we got it right. So they were a team who got recalibrated based on our process changing. Again, how that's going to play out with the most recent result, I don't know, but uh, it goes back to the whole thing. We're NDL guys, right? This is for fun, right? So we tried to rate them right. We probably got it wrong. We tried to get it right this time based on the info we had. That's going to change. That's okay. And then I just last one before I let anybody else come with questions. The Yukon one for Hubbard. That's an interesting one, right? Because we were talking about that. Let's say that Yukon does go out and post 12-0 record with a win against NC State. That's a ranked win any way you put it, right? They don't take that away from you at the end of the year, even if that team's not ranked. But that's one of those ones too that is hard because there are other teams in our top 12 that are being positioned. Well, this is the result against NC State. Look how they looked here. Look, does NC State losing to a Yukon who is undefeated, but sorry, D. Riccio, it's a dog shit schedule. How do we assess that properly, right? Like, was NC State always just a little too high, or is Yukon that good? And then then you really get into the issue of there's already a spot reserved for a G5 team, and Yukon's one of those outliers. They're an independent. They don't have any free access to this. They are merit-based only. I don't know how you leave a 12-0 team out of the playoff, but and this is not speaking for the committee in any capacity. I would stand by the fact that I would have a hard time putting a 12-0 Yukon into the playoff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to defend you really quick. I'm going to defend you really quick, Drew, and only because I have his schedule pulled up. Is the NC State win would be a good win. I think NC State love Homie to death, but I think he finishes with potentially 4 losses in the season. But he has not played a single opponent that's even close, other than NC State, that's even close to 500 right now. No opponent that's even close to 500 right now. And that's a schedule he picks. He picks a majority of those coaches. I know they're coaches he plays every year, but that's one of those big picture things is you have the ability to change your schedule or play a more competitive schedule and you choose not to. At some point, that is going to come back to bite him in the butt, and I think it's good. He does play Hawaii, who's 5-3 right now. That is the only other team. The other team is 2-3.
Tim, real quick, let me do one for you. This is where these are the exercises, right? So just hear me out real quick. You brought up Hawaii, so I'll give you 4 games for 2 different teams. Let's go Arizona, Oregon State, Utah State, and Kansas. Or you have Washington, Nebraska, also Oregon State, and how about Rutgers? Which one would you take?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to depend. I think so. The thing with Washington is Washington's probably going to be better than any team that UConn plays on their whole schedule.
So that Washington, Nebraska, Oregon State, Rutgers, or even the UCLA, that was a 8-2 Maryland, right? I mean, yeah, they have a loss to Virginia, they have a loss to Illinois, but like this is I'm not trying to necessarily build up or break down Maryland at all, and I'm not trying, but like is a 12-0 with those teams on it really better than a 10-2 Big Ten schedule? You know what I'm saying? Like you don't want to minimize an undefeated season, but just because you went undefeated doesn't mean you're a top 12 team. And our sole job at the end of the day is to make sure that within the confines of putting in P4 champions and the G5, we give you the best top 12. That doesn't mean UConn's not a good team and a great coach. That doesn't have to mean that they're a top 12 team.
Yep. I agree. And we never want to get into the habit in the NDL of just putting teams in just because and so I think you guys do a great job. Penguin, do you have a couple questions for Drew?
Yeah, I had a scenario to pose to him that give me your most possible concise answer to this. How you think this scenario would play out? You have a 10-2 Tennessee, a 10-2 Notre Dame. both very possible with how they sit in the remaining schedule. And then you have one of two teams. You either have an 11-2 Iowa State that lost to Utah in the Big 12 title game, or what would it be? It would be a 9-3 Oklahoma State losing to Utah in the Big 10 title game. And we'll say it's like a 10-point loss. Wasn't a last second, but they didn't get blown out either.
Yep.
But you only have 2 spots left in the playoffs for these 3 teams. Who are you leaving out?
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Again, so we're talking just my personal opinion here. So we're gonna go with
or gut reaction.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. 10-2 Notre Dame, 10-2 Tennessee, 11-2 Iowa State, who loses to Utah in the CCG, or a
9-3
Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State. Yeah.
Sure.
Who will have beaten a 10-win Iowa State team as well.
Yeah. So, I would say this: as far as championship games go, I would find it hard to pick out any scenario where a team that is higher. So I know they're not going, but let's just say they did. If Tennessee was 10-2 and then went to the title game, and then was 10-3 with a loss to Texas, and then 11-2 Iowa State, I wouldn't. Let's say Iowa State went and won. There's okay. You can't punish a higher rated team for losing in a CCG versus a team that didn't make one at all. But the flip side of that is, I don't necessarily know that if you have an 11-2 Iowa State who did make a CCG versus a 10-2 Tennessee who didn't, does that, and this isn't my answer philosophically, does that warrant, do you reward a team for having the same number of losses and making a conference championship game if that conference is believed to be not on the same level, Big 12 being on the same level as the SEC? That's going to be a question for everybody. My gut reaction to you would be, I promise you I would put Notre Dame in, because they have wins against NC State, Tennessee, and USC. Tennessee, their best wins are Georgia, Kansas State, and Arkansas. They still have, now again, in this scenario,
Florida.
I'm not sure who. Right, I don't know who they beat, because you have Oklahoma, Florida, and Vandy left on their schedule. Oklahoma, in theory, is a good coach and a decent team, but God damn it, play some games. 2-1. What the hell are we going to do with that? But I would say Notre Dame could go 10-2, and I would, in no circumstance from your scenario, see Iowa State making that title game and still losing and passing them, or even a 9-3 Oklahoma State doing that. I definitely see a scenario where an 11-2 Iowa State may get in over a 10-2 Tennessee. But if we're going off of this season's results specifically, being that would mean Oklahoma, Florida, and Vandy were all wins for Tennessee, at that point, I don't think that I would be able to justify making an Iowa State pass up a 10-2 fourth place SEC.
So you are punishing a team for losing a conference championship game in the
end. No, not necessarily. And now,
I mean,
but here, let me.
Yeah, but it's one of those things, Drew. I think one of the things, though, Penguin, is that if you're a borderline college football team leading up to your conference championship because you've lost a game or two, and you get into your conference championship game, you've earned that right to have an extra game for your resume. If you lose that game, then it's almost like fine, we'll take that one game out that you lost, but we're going to say you never even made your college football championship then. We're going to only use your resume, not counting the college football championship, because you don't want us to use it against you. And so I kind of get where Drew's coming from here, and my thought's the same way. Is I don't like the argument of you can't punish teams. Well, no, because I can reward teams for winning it. And so there's got to be, you lose a game. Penguin, you and I both agreed that a loss is a loss on paper, right? There's no such thing as a quality loss. Like, you lost. How you lost, I like how Drew put that. But I don't like that you can't punish a team for not making the championship, because if you have 2 10-2 teams, they both two 10-2 teams, one makes the conference championship and loses and one doesn't, I'm going to look at it like, well, how did you lose your conference championship game? Who did you play? And then I'm going to look at common opponents, and it may hurt you that you didn't win it at the end of the day because you got that extra game to bolster your resume and you didn't do anything with it.
Can I say something and let you finish it? Because I want to give you the
Sure.
last word, just because you had the question, so I'll give you the last word to round it out. So I guess this is what I would say. I understand where you're coming from, but and I'm not trying to change the narrative, but I would say just a different viewpoint would be I don't think that, in my personal opinion, that I would be punishing you for making a conference championship game and losing it. I would be using that data point as validation that where I had you ranked from the outset or from the poll prior to that was that you were properly ranked, right? I mean, so here we go. If you were to win out in the regular season and Tennessee were to win out 10-2 Tennessee, 11-1 Iowa State, Tennessee has Georgia, Kansas State, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Florida, Vandy, and Bama and Notre Dame as their losses. You have, and again, mindful of your scenario that I had already kept Notre Dame in here at 10-2. Then you would have Iowa State with Florida State, Kansas State, who is a common opponent with Tennessee, Texas Christian, Kansas, and Oklahoma State. So I think, I don't know for sure, but I would surmise that going into this conference championship game, you're probably still going to be ranked behind a 10-2 Tennessee. And again, you can be rewarded for making a title game and losing by keeping your spot that you're already higher ranked, but you can't go, and it's not a punishment if you lose it and we're ranked lower. It's, in my mind, a validation that the ranking was accurate to begin with. I'll leave it at that, and I'll let you have final word. Tell me where I'm wrong, because even these little conversations help with future votes and making a well-rounded opinion. So I would like to hear what you have to say about that.
Well, I'm going to reference kind of what happened last year, part to start with. We were 9-3 at that point and lost by a couple scores in our title game there. So I understood that gave us our fourth loss. We really didn't have any type of argument there. In fact, a couple other Big 12 teams that didn't make the conference title game got in over us. And, that is what it is. We're sitting there as a team with 4 losses. There was really no case to be made. So my question, where it doesn't make sense to me there, is because you're talking to a team that going into that game is 11-1. So I guess I could have framed this a little better. At 11-1, I would assume, and I guess perhaps it's a rash assumption, that we're sitting at least like in that last playoff spot at that point there. So I guess maybe I should have phrased it to say, or
He was upside down earlier. Penguin, though, my favorite part about your season, though, is you're going to be able to control your destiny 100%. You play Oklahoma State. You obviously run the table. You'll be there won't be a question that you'd be inside of that college football playoff.
I can't hear a thing.
Yeah.
You guys just hear
some
more?
reverb background come from more.
Or mute your mic a second.
Or you got to mute, brother.
There, I muted him. Can you guys? I muted you, Mark.
Yes, now
just
I
for
can
a
hear
second.
again.
It's his because he took out his earbuds real quick.
Oh, okay. Anyway, I should have framed it better, saying that I guess 11-1. I would assume we're in playoff position at that time. There, lose the conference title game. Same with Oklahoma State. I would think that getting into the conference title game, they'd be sitting in playoff position at that time. So, and I don't really need you to answer that. I think you've really kind of said a lot that makes sense already there. But does the Big 12 title game at that point fall out of playoff position in favor of those 10-2 teams?
Yeah, and I got to tell you why I like your question there. And again, I'll probably leave it at that for the NDL. But just to wrap that one up, I mean, I like that because I think that tailors right into real life. You know, this whole thing right now, the big conversation about the Big Ten wanting this structure with auto bids, and you know the Big 12, who a lot of people thought should fucking scarf that shit up and take their 2 bids every day of the week, came out and said, no, 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 we want to earn it on the field, and I respect that, but to me, that's a fool's errand from the Big 12 because at that point, like you're in my mind really throwing a lot of it up to the conference perception, right? And I'm not saying that that's just or correct, but it happens in real life. There is a lot, and they've even talked about that, right? Where check out, I didn't even realize this. The Big 12 doesn't do a preseason poll anymore because Arizona State got voted last season and then went and won the conference. And there's a line of thinking in that conference that, well, our preseason poll with these, you know, preconceived notions and baked in expectations hurt our conference perception for the playoff. And so it's the same type of thing here, I think. I mean, I will just go ahead and say that it is viewed as a down year in the Big 12 right now. And so not from a personal standpoint, but this has happened in other places too. Uh, you know, again, with some of our other teams that were in that bubble, they didn't play as strong. It really matters what people think about the schedule, and if your conference gets labeled as down this year, right, wrong, or indifferent, there's no doubt in my mind that there's some biases baked in there, whether people choose to or not. It just inherently occurs. So, uh, maybe not the answer everybody wants, but I think that's probably the reality of it.
I think you present what you have to say very well, and even the parts I don't agree with, I can kind of wrap my mind around. I think you're a fantastic representative of the committee, and even if I lose my mind a little and have to go, run around the backyard with my dogs a little bit, I know you're going to make a decision at the end of the day or be part of that most league's going to be happy with.
Absolutely. Appreciate that, Penguin.
Yeah, Drew, we really
And
appreciate
last
you.
thing I want to say, bud, hey, sorry, Tim, didn't mean to cut you off, but listen, hey, I'm just the voice for everybody. So don't that's not thanking Drew Baca. We got to just thank everybody on the committee because I know that guys have been spending a lot of time. We've been together in the chat, you know, talking about results as they've happened, la di da. But yeah, so a lot of guys spend a lot of time trying to give all of you the most entertaining product we can. So shout out to everybody else doing the work behind the scenes too.
Yeah, man, Drew, we really appreciate you coming on the show. We really thank the committee and all the countless hours and thought. We know that the time that they spend isn't just that 90 minutes. A lot of them are spending time throughout the week doing their own research, watching games, and we really appreciate that from a media standpoint. Is it gives us things to talk about on the show, whether they agree with them or not. That's kind of our job is to be loud and boisterous, and sometimes we don't agree with them. But at the end of the day, I think they do what's in the best nature for the way the committee's designed. And Drew, you did a great job explaining that and explaining some of your own opinions and stuff, which we really appreciate on the show here. Um,
Sure thing.
and so, you're welcome on the show anytime. The plan is he's tentatively going to come on either our Monday reveal or our game day reveal when he can to kind of be the voice of the college football playoff. And at least now we have some more of the insight. And so it'll be a little bit quicker when we're explaining things because people will understand a lot of it. Now, Mort, are you with us? It looks like we lost Mort. He looks like he's trying to fix some audio issues he was having. Mort, are you there? Are you with us, Mort? Nope. Oh,
Yeah.
hey, Mort.
Hey,
Old man problems, apparently.
yeah.
There we go. A crowd favorite right now is Mort. He was, as you guys saw, he was doing some Spider-Man tricks, and he was upside down in his house. And so, Mort, man, great to
Still
have.
within the show.
Yeah, great to have you on the show, Mort. I know you've been a big fan of Game Day. We see you in the chat a lot, and so it was a no-brainer to get you onto the show with us. How you doing today?
I'm super glad to be here. Coming in from a Texas Tech win makes it a lot more enjoyable. But just being able to sit here and listen to the committee, have an idea of how it's going, it's great to be here.
Man, it's great. So obviously, Texas Tech fan. Some of our fans on Game Day may not know where you're from. Just kind of tell everyone where you're from and how the NDL to you came about.
So I live in Nashville. I'm originally from Texas. I did go to Texas Tech, so I came by that honestly. Um, and moved to Nashville. I've been here for about almost 20 years. I do not know Jeff Moe, but that was fun to find out that he lives in Nashville too. That was surprising. Um, I know the NDL, I just found out from Operation Sports. I was getting ready to kind of hang up the sticks at the end of the cycle. I was kind of tired of college football 25, and for some reason got on Operation Sports, was perusing around, found that thread, and it looked super intriguing. So joined the Discord, and here I am.
So Mort, do you need an explanation for the moniker Mort the Cow? We'll start there, obviously.
That goes back to chat room days and instant messenger, and if I could, it would be Mort the Flying Cow, but the PSN network didn't allow it to be that long when I picked it. But it just goes back to I was a teenager. I grew up in Texas. It was just funny to me back in the day, and I ended up with Mort the Cow. My instant messenger name used to be, because Mort the Cow was actually taken when I signed up for instant messenger. What, 30 years ago?
Someone stole
So I
that from
ended up
you.
with Flyaway Mort. And yeah, it's always just kind of been a thing. I have no affiliation with Mort in my name. Nothing.
So it's pretty much closer to the origin story of how I picked Penguin back in the day as well, because that is part of it also as well. So
I don't want to be Penguin.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. No, I needed my AIM messenger and my PSN and stuff. I wanted things to kind of line up and match, because when I started playing, I found it was just a nightmare to find out, okay, wait a minute, your name is this on the boards on the league, it's this on AIM and this on the play, and trying to connect who is who at all the time was a nightmare occasionally. So
It's still confusing to this day.
fair enough.
Not yours, just the other people.
Yes, some are nuts. So you said, what's Texas Tech? What year did you graduate?
2005. So
2005.
I transferred in 2002, I think. We're going into the dusty bins of memory. But yeah, I was there, I think, 3 years. There for the Mike Leach days, the Cliff Kingsbury days. I was the journalist who helped cover the football team. Bobby Knight was there. So a fun time to be a Red Raider and be in sports journalism.
Fantastic. Now you mentioned sports journalism. Is that type of thing you work in these days, or what? What are you doing in that day and way? Oh, realtor.
I'm just a realtor, one of those hated realtors. But it's been good. I worked for Yahoo Sports. That's what actually brought me out to Nashville, because I worked for Rivals for a couple of years. I started with the Texas Tech affiliate, Red Raider Sports. Was hired out to headquarters in 05, and that's kind of how I set my roots out here. Yahoo ended up buying Rivals, laying off a third of the office, and now that office doesn't even exist in Tennessee.
Yeah. I remember Yahoo Sports being a thing. I can't even think the last time I thought of Yahoo Sports prior to you mentioning it right there. It's been a while.
I still use it as my scoreboard every Saturday to keep up with stuff, just out of habit.
Gotcha. What other sports allegiances do you hold?
I have followed Pat Mahomes to the Chiefs. Being a Titans fan is quite difficult these days, so I am bandwagoning respectfully with the Chiefs, even though that's a little hard these days. Not looking so great this season.
I know it's fantastic.
Beyond them, I don't follow a lot of sports. Not a hockey guy. I enjoyed the Preds when they went to the playoffs. They made it to the Stanley Cup. That was a lot of fun here. I've been to a couple games. It's a great environment when they're winning, but nothing outside of that really. I'm a college football fan through and through and through.
Did you grow up a Red Raiders fan, or was that did you adopt that as you became a student?
So I grew up a Raider fan. I gave up on the Cowboys. Ironically, after they won their second Super Bowl with Jimmy Johnson, I decided as a little kid, you know what? That's too easy. I want to have some difficult. teams. I like the Raiders. I decided back then I liked the Patriots, the old logo Patriots, the old logo Buccaneers when they were all just terrible. The old Bengals when they were terrible. I just liked these bad teams. I don't know why. And I enjoyed playing with them in Tecmo Super Bowl and trying to fight through the bad teams, the David Klingler years. So that's kind of where my original allegiances lied. I didn't get into college football until I got into college.
So, have you been diagnosed as a masochist with these tendencies, or is that more of a hobby?
That's more hobby. I haven't gone for a professional diagnosis.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough.
But I
don't wanna
was a Notre Dame fan during the Bob Davie years and the Tyrone Willingham years. So yeah, there's been some pain in my history.
Fair enough. As a lifelong Buccaneers and Braves fan before the run in the '90s, I definitely know what that's like. So.
Eric Rhett was one of my favorite running backs.
Oh, okay.
Old school.
Yeah, the creamsicle days for sure. Yep. Well, I don't want too many here because I know we've all gone pretty long. Tim, you got any questions to throw in for?
Man, not really. Mort, I'm going to ask you just a couple questions that we asked CG. So Pat did one of his interviews with CG prior to the show. And so I'll just ask you a few of these questions that are on here. What is your favorite movie of all time?
So that's his. He went over some of my stuff last week actually, but it's Shawshank Redemption.
You're right. He did. I remember that.
Oh, yep.
That's one of my movies that I just scream anytime it's on. I love it.
Yep.
What are your feelings on was it Like Mike 2 though? I mean, I noticed that you didn't mention that at all though.
I have absolutely no idea what that movie is. I don't even know that there's a Like Mike. I don't know what is that? Is it a cartoon?
So no, Like Mike, I think wasn't it Little Bow Wow that played in like he's a basketball player. I remember Like Mike because I had seen that one, but I didn't even know there was a sequel to it. And so is it the same actor?
Little Bow Wow references today.
Right. I don't know if he's the same. If it's the same guy, like the same actor in number 2 or what.
Let me find out. Like Mike 2. No, I see nobody's name I know in the cast. Clyde Drexler makes a spot in it, but I mean, other than that, it's a bunch of nobodies.
Kel Mitchell. I recognize Kel Mitchell.
Okay, what kind of music do you listen to, Mark?
Sports talk.
What do you say?
Sports talk.
Sports talk.
Well,
it's not a bad answer.
Yeah, but what kind of music do you listen to?
Usually top 40 stuff.
Okay, so you're big into K-pop.
That's catchy.
Okay. It's big into K-pop.
If it becomes popular enough, he will be, evidently.
If it's sad to admit that I do know some K-pop that I enjoy, I can throw that on a little bit from time to time. I have not seen Demon Hunters. I have not seen K-pop Demon Hunters.
Chip said that. Fired up Chip said that right away in the chat too, is that he's a big K-pop Demon Hunters fan. Either that or Chip's clearing that he is, which that would definitely track. No, nothing against K-pop. I do hear it on the radio every once in a while. Well, Mort, we've had a blast with you on the phone on the show. You're going to stick around and give us your picks and stuff. I'm going to go over some of CG's answers here. Okay, so Mort, feel free to laugh and make fun of him since he's not on the show. That's what our favorite thing to do is if they're not here, we make fun of them. So if you want to make fun of Pat, you're definitely more than welcome to make fun of Pat or Hubbard. So Pat did an interview with CG.
Even.
Yes, correct. Send him some questions
all day about Utah, so he had to eat a lot of words today in the DMs.
Perfect. So CG, this goes to CG's favorite movie of all time is Moneyball. That's a pretty good movie, right? Brad Pitt.
It's a respectable pick.
Yeah, it's a pretty good movie. His favorite Ohio State player ever it's also his favorite NFL player of all time is Eddie George. I mean, can't really go wrong with that, right? As a kid, we all grew up watching Eddie George run. There was nothing wrong with Eddie George.
No, he's a solid dude. And again, I was in Nashville while he was still here. So that hits close to home. I can appreciate that. I know I'm supposed to not like it, but I gotta respect it.
And then his favorite NDL memory so far is that he doesn't really have one single thing I can point to. Sorry. Okay. So maybe this game, when you beat his ass, will be like his favorite memory. It's like when I lost the Mort.
I would have figured his favorite memory would be when he beat me last season with Georgia State, Georgia Southern.
Yeah, Georgia Southern, right? No, it's Georgia State.
I was
I
up
don't know.
24-6, and he came back on me on the fourth. Pulled a mort.
Oh, dang.
Pulled one of my morts.
It says his favorite person to play and least favorite person to play is just really no one. I don't dislike playing anyone, and everyone I've played has been really cool. So, very blah answer, right? It's fun when people throw other people under the bus and say they don't like them. Now,
Like
how did
CG
you hear?
is very boring.
Right?
Yeah.
Gosh.
I think
So,
you should publicly state right now that you don't like him and that he's your number one person
yeah,
you
he's
don't
your
want to play.
rival. Put him
Don't
on
like
your
him.
I don't.
list.
Well,
Yeah.
I listed Cruising already as my number one last week, so CG's going to have to be my number two.
Number two, he's on your list. Number two. What do you?
He's on
Oh,
the
it says
Anton list.
yes, he's on Anton's list. Now, how did you hear about the NDL? CG says he typed NCAA 25 Online Dynasty into Google. Hey, man, I mean, we'll take it, right? It's just like very
He was
bizarre.
probably searching money plays and found us by accident.
Right? Yeah. No, actually, when I hear these ones are really exciting, right? Because a majority of our members are referrals, right? They're friends, family, things like that. And so it's really fun to see someone that is complete. And I'll tell you guys a really cool story about CG, but just a way out there, he found the league by chance, right? Types it in, finds it. And so it's really cool to see that. What does he do for work? He's a CMM programmer. I program a robot to measure parts, seat frames that go into F-150s and other vehicles to make sure that the dimensions that they meet dimensional specs. Like nerd, right?
So he's part of the reason those trucks suck. Gotcha.
Do you think he drives a Ford? I don't know.
Everything
Just
you
wondering.
just said just put me to sleep more and more as you spoke.
Yeah. So now he's moving up your list from number 2 to 1. Okay. His favorite game to play other than NCAA is Red Dead Redemption or Last of Us. So Last of Us is a really good game. That first series was an absolute blast. When
not playing NCAA, he just likes playing with himself, basically.
Yes, that's what I heard. Yep. His favorite place that he's ever traveled is Maui for his honeymoon back in 2008. It said, lastly, if there's one rule that you could add and one rule you'd take out, what would that be and why? He says custom playbooks. I feel like it's the most unrealistic thing we allow in the league, but I understand with 130 plus users, why we allow them. It just seems odd to allow a team to have access to every single offensive scheme and every defensive scheme all within one playbook. But I digress. So that's a valid argument. I mean, and he says also age, hometown, and graduated from college, if any. He's 43. He's from Lorain, which is near Cleveland, Ohio, and he graduated from Toledo in 2008. So there's CG. I'll tell a really cool, quick story, just real quick here about CG. I actually, so CG joined the league just randomly one day. I saw him in the introduction channel, and I'm like, man, that name is so familiar. And so him and we played in Madden leagues back in the early 2000s for several years. I don't know how many seasons we played, but it was several. And he was a great guy back then, obviously a great guy now, but that was 20 years ago where we had played in Madden leagues for several real years and just happened to reconnect in the NDL, which is just really, really bizarre and weird and stuff. And that Madden league that we ran, it was a league that I ran with a couple other friends. And so just really by chance that we would happen to be in the same place, same time, 20 years later. And he's posted some old signatures and stuff we used to use back in the day on the forums and stuff. He has ones from both of us. Obviously, I'm a giant Seahawks fan, and I can't remember if he's a Rams fan or who he used back then. Honestly, it was a long time ago. For some reason, I thought it was the Rams, but it might have been somebody else. So real funny story and cool story and stuff. But I guess we'll get back to the thing here. Obviously, Maryland, Michigan State play each other. It's one of our games that we're picking this week. Mort obviously seeing some success in the NDL, finally being ranked and stuff. And then obviously you lose. Like, how do you kind of handle that in the old public forum when you get ranked, you get some notary and stuff, and then you end up losing a game?
That wasn't too bad. I think it's funny that I got ranked higher this week than last week. The thing that I took more offense to was how brutal y'all were against Maryland getting ranked in the college football playoff last week. Y'all were very unkind.
Well, I mean, like I think Drew had mentioned some type of comment that said, what happens when you lose is that all you're doing is validating my comments or my rankings from the last week. And so, I mean, yeah, we can be pretty brutal sometimes here on the show. And then obviously it didn't help that I had sent you, as well as the entire NDL, my production notes that I thought I deleted everything, but I clearly forgot to delete. If no one saw it, I forgot to delete Michigan State versus Maryland's production note from me. It wasn't from anybody else that said, I don't really think this game's going to be close. And so, obviously, sometimes that stuff gets out.
Which way? Go ahead and pick which way you thought that.
Well, I gotta wait till we're getting there. We're getting there. But obviously, I was trying to give each team some bulletin material. That was really my goal here, was just to give them some talking points and some bulletin material for your teams. And so, no, it's got to be exciting. Mort being in the league, in the NDL, and just being around the talk of a football playoff and college football playoff, and obviously, have a big game against Michigan State to close out your season here, where potentially the winner. I mean, that's your bid to try to get into there, at least make an argument and stuff. Like, how are you dealing with that kind of pressure?
Honestly, it's no pressure. I'm not sure if I'm deserving to be in the top 12 no matter what. I picked Maryland to exceed their win goal of 2 games, and I've done that. I've accomplished everything I wanted to do this season, more so than I really thought I would. I've got 2 games left against Freak. I've got CG coming up. I think that's going to be a great game. And if the committee appreciates what I've done and throws me in there, great. If not, I'm super proud of the season that I've had so far.
Yeah. So, big question: are you staying in Maryland, or are you got your eyes set for the draft?
I mean, my eyes are definitely on the draft, but there's a big question on Texas Tech and if they'll be available or not.
Oh man, well, he's got his eyes set on.
I may have to run it back with Maryland to try and get him next season.
Yeah. Look at that. Got his eyes set on a team, Texas Tech. It'll be interesting. I can't imagine. Have you even reached out to him, to Wilds, to ask him what his plans were?
Before the season even started, I know what his goals are. I know what he's thinking. I just don't know, where things are going to end up at the end.
Man,
so we just got to see how the season continues to play out.
So I brought up a theory in the chat the other day. How cool would it be? And I think, Drew, you were in the chat when I was saying this. How cool would it be if there's a little tiny committee in week 2, let's say week 2 or week 14 in the NDL was rivalry week, and this little committee got to pick who you played that week. So if you didn't like someone, or in Mort's case, have lots of friends, no one hates Mort, is Mort and Wilds play week 14. And it just happens to be like where you guys need, because it's a rivalry game, right? You could automatically slate that in. And if you lose that game, you lose your team.
You don't know this yet, then.
What's that?
Maybe nobody knows this. We play in the Beefy Cup.
There you
round
go.
Of 16.
Tell him if you beat him, he's got to leave. You're out of here.
I thought about that.
The gentleman's agreements. I love it.
You're out of here. You're out of here. We win. I don't know that the powers
that with 77 overall Maryland, that should be the case.
Yeah, right. No, excited.
Tim, I gotta sign off, brother. I was just gonna say thanks for having me on today. Great show. I'll catch you guys soon.
Yeah, see you later, Drew. Thanks a lot.
All right,
thanks for coming on, man.
Yep. See ya.
So we're gonna get into these pick'em games. We'll start with the Tennessee Florida game. Is that one yours first, Penguin? We're gonna have to do some
Yeah. Do we just want to, you and me, just want to alternate introducing them?
Let me see. So you, me, you. How about I go first then? Or did you already have talking points for some of them?
It doesn't matter to me.
Well, then that way you don't have to. What? Go ahead. We'll just alternate them, and we'll let Mort introduce the Iowa State Oklahoma State game only because you play in it.
Fair enough. All
Okay,
right.
so I'll tell you when
Okay.
you go, Mort. Go ahead, Penguin.
All right. Well, our first game, got a couple teams that haven't had quite the season that I think they really wanted to in Tennessee and Florida. Always a really intense rivalry game. Vegas and Big Mike are definitely a couple guys right on that fringe always that you think maybe can make a title run, but with multiple losses here, you got to think the question comes into you need to win this game to make sure that you have the option to keep the team next year. As I don't know off the top of my head what their win goals are, but I know if the Gators lose this one, that's definitely got to be put into jeopardy. Now, the Gators do get this one at home, so that means I think they'll get good DJ in this game, and that home field advantage should be enough to give them a chance to disrupt that explosive Tennessee offense. So I think Mike potentially saves his job, at least for another week here, and that they get the win over the Vols.
So it's really interesting you talk about a win here, Penguin, and potentially, right? Florida has Tennessee, who's ranked number 12, and then you have Florida State to round out the season. If Florida wins the remaining amount of their games and finishes at 9-3, they're going to have a very valid argument to be a better team than some of the two loss teams that sit right now that have lost to non-ranked opponents, right? Florida's only losses right now
Very true.
are all ranked opponents, right? They lost to Miami, they lost the number one team in the nation, and then they ended up losing to LSU, right? Which is going to be a top 5 playoff team. And so the biggest thing I think really with the Tennessee, I think Tennessee is going to win the game because I think Tennessee is going to be the team that's sitting with 2 losses that's going to be making a valid argument on why they aren't in the playoff currently. And so I have Tennessee. I have Tennessee winning this game. I think it's going to be close, but I think that they're gonna be able to control the clock on the ground, and that's why they're going to be able to win.
My take on this game is I made a slight mistake in not looking at the home team of each of these games coming up. So I'm looking at this thinking, you know what, Tennessee, Florida, it's going to be a tight matchup. I did not realize they were playing in the swamp. But that aside, I think DJ Lagway and the what is it the break sack ability. I think that's one of those blessing and a curse abilities because they break a sack, but that just gives them another chance to fumble or another chance to throw an inaccurate pass that can be intercepted. So I'm leaning on Tennessee this game. I think the Vols are going to get it done. My wife's a big Tennessee fan. I live in Tennessee. I got to go with the Vols in this one.
So the next one is going to be LSU at Clemson. This is where you're facing 2 top 10 teams. Both sat in the college football playoff. This is a really big non-conference game at the end of the season, probably one of the bigger ones in the NDL. Most of these non-conference games are played at the beginning of the year. I think that I had a really hard time picking this one because of the home field advantage. But what I did is I basically went off experience. LSU being a former champ both in the Beefy Cup and in the NDL, I think that he's going to be able to handle going on the road here in one of the big matchups. This is going to be where he's going to be able to really make a strong argument for being one of the top 4 seeds when it's all said and done. Is it going to be the big win at the end of? And I got LSU winning this one.
Yeah, I agree completely with you on this one.